Hey everybody, this is Sound Control. I wanted to do something different and share my path to making music the way that I do today. So my relationship with music starts from very young. I was, 3, 4 years old, sitting in the back of um, my parents' car, and they would just always play gospel music. So um, my ears were very attuned to things that I heard in those tracks, and I would always ask my mom to rewind it because back then it was cassette tapes, and one group in particular was the Winans, right? So their music sort of led me and opened me up to the world of R&B, jazz, and stuff like that because they were very contemporary for their time. So they had like a very slick chords and stuff like that. So my journey with music started from listening and growing older. I actually wanted to play the drums. The drums was the instrument that I wanted to learn originally. Whenever I was going to church, I would see the drummer play, the drums, and it would always just, grab my attention, and I fell in love with the rhythm, so it got to the point where I would take hangers and break them and make pseudo drumsticks. So it was odd, but because drumming was quite disruptive, my parents put me in piano lessons, and so I started taking piano lessons. And actually, my very first instrument was the clarinet, but then that broke, and so then I started taking piano lessons. I started going. I started off at the Queen's Conservatory. I was really young. I think I did a recital or two. It was okay. I mean, I got the foundation in like a little classical. Learned the basics, the scales, and everything. I had a cousin who played in churches and stuff like that, so he would give me lessons on one hand and teach me he exposed me to lots of the more classical side because he was classically trained. So I think he went to, I don't even remember the high school, but LaGuardia, or no, he went to a music high school. I think he went to the same high school as Nicki Minaj, whichever high school that is. Comment below. But and I don't know if he actually knew her. They just went to the same school. But I started taking lessons from him. I got a lot of classical influence from him. I would say I'm grateful for the lessons I learned with him because he exposed me to music from a classical, traditional sense. Like I got a foundation in the Hanon. I think I still have a copy of the Hanon today. It's not in my desk, but I keep a copy of the Hanon because the Hanon really helped me develop like a certain dexterity with the keyboard. Again, the piano wasn't my first choice, but I grew to love it over time, especially when I would take lessons with Miss Jackie. So Mrs. Jackie was my other pseudo teacher. She also, after I stopped going to that Queen's Conservatory, I went to her, and there she would make me draw the keyboard and sort of label each degree of the scale: tonic, supertonic, submediate, leading tone, dominant, all that stuff. And I would have to, draw, kind of very basic. What's a half step? What's a whole step? And, getting familiar with that. So combining the Hanon with that sort of like base level awareness of the keyboard. And then finally, she also taught me like old school gospel and jazz progressions. And I mean, another thing, she was the niece of Thelonious Monk. It was pretty cool to get that exposure because then I was just listening to Thelonious. I was listening to Oscar Peterson. I was listening to Art Tatum. These dudes was in my ear was just like, that's all I was listening to at one point. And then Stevie Wonder for sure because, going back to Winans, when I was in the car with my parents and they were driving and playing gospel music, I heard the Winans, and the Winans had a Stevie feature. And on that Stevie feature, I was like, yo, Stevie Wonder's crazy with the chords. So like my ears started to open up to like different chords, different progressions, different ways to accomplish the same goal, right? chord substitutions, all that, tritones, all of that. So I just kept taking lessons, and eventually I started playing in church. I've done performances here and there, and that's where my music journey started. Music production came into sort of my attention in 2010. 2010, I was like, and it's funny because 2010 is the year that the Octatrack actually came out, but back in 2010, I had my first summer job. It was through the Summer Youth Employment in New York, and I did that. I think I got, by the end of the summer, like $1,000, right? So I had it in my mind, either I want a synthesizer, which was a Juno. It was a Juno synthesizer, because I was already like, I think listening to Stevie Wonder had already like made me super interested in synthesizers. So I just wanted a synthesizer so I could perform and utilize it when playing, right? But then the other option was, let me start making beats. Let me buy a computer. So I ended up getting a MacBook. It was like my first MacBook, right? And it wasn't, I don't think it was the Pro, it was just a MacBook. It might have been a Pro. Either way, I think my mom helped out with the Logic, I had the Logic Express, and that's where I started making beats. And I was doing that for a couple years. My mom even bought me like my first drum machine, and it was an MPC. It was a little DR 670 by Boss, right? It didn't really make the sounds that I was hoping for it to make. And around that time, like this is around like 2012, 2013, that's when like trap was getting popular, and I was just struggling to get the sound. So like my beats were sounding like, my beats were melodic, like heavily reliant on melody and my knowledge of chord progression, and not necessarily my technical knowledge of production. So I heavily relied on my music, my theory, to sort of create whatever I created back then. But I didn't necessarily have a strong foundation in, drum sculpting, and, even just having the sources to get the sounds that I wanted to really make, to keep up with the times. Because around that 2012, 2013 was when trap, hip hop was like, it was getting to where it was going. And, that was a little frustrating. And I had the DR670, but I would use it as a MIDI controller. And it worked out a little bit, but it wasn't, yeah. But I think, so I just kept making beats, until I was making beats all throughout college. And I got to a point where I think it was like after college, right after college, I was, just still making beats here and there. And I reached out to a friend. I saw he was rapping. I was like, yo, I'd love to make beats. Let me send some stuff. And my stuff was coming along, but it didn't have the oomph, but I was getting there. Like, I think Splice had just came out around 20, it probably came out a little bit before that. I don't want to give you bad information. I just remember I discovered Splice, and I was able to get some of the sounds that I was previously, stating that I missed. And I started downloading the sounds, and I started to, okay, I could do this. I was starting to get with the times with my sound a little bit, but still my 808s wasn't hitting. I didn't really have a huge foundation in mixing. I mean, I think it was the summer, my first year working out of college, which was 2017. Actually, let's fast forward to 2018. I think it was the summer of either 2017 or 2018. I would just bring my laptop to work. I would leave it in the car. And, that entire time I was like, all right, I got to learn how to mix. I got to kind of figure this out just a little bit. So I would go in my car. I think I would actually, I was making beats or watching tutorials in the car at lunchtime, so that was for like, a couple years, when this was pre-pandemic. And then 2018, and I had to edit this video because my joint cut off mid-story. But I think I was at 2018. So 2018 was the year. I so for one, I was with like a label, from 2016, 2017. It was an old friend, and I was sending beats and stuff like that. And then I stopped with the label, and we got to 2018. I was playing around trying to sell beats. I had like a little website. My name back then was Jack the Producer. I had a website, BeatStars API associated with the website, trying to sell beats. I sold like one beat. It was a failure. But it was a learning experience. I just never really, I never really recovered after that. But then, like in 2018, I would say, I felt like I was like, dang, I've been making beats for 8 years, and it was like, dang, man, I was not feeling it no more. I was just like, like I wasn't selling any beats, nothing. But then I started to see videos of people making beats off of the computer. And I think it primarily started with the SP4SX. I just saw a bunch of people. It was just like mad people just making beats on the SP404. And then I got exposed to Electron. I remember seeing Jay Electronica's post, with him having like a Digiton and Digitac next to each other. I was seeing Voltage Controller make a bunch of electrons, beats on Electron boxes, hip hop beats too. And it was very rare because, like, back then it was just like a bunch of just, I don't know, it was electronic music or something that lots of people pretty much use these box for. And I think Voltage Controller helped me like open my eyes, like, yo, these things have some cool, cool capabilities. So 2018, I start my Dawless journey. I got a MIDI log. I had like a SP44SX because I ain't jumping to no Octatrack. I'm coming from barely using Logic Pro to its. I had just learned automation. I had just learned how to, use some EQ, use the R-Base trick to create, some sub, stuff. I got exposure to Wave plugins back then, and mid-side compression, mid-side EQ, all that stuff, and I was like just aware. So getting an Octatrack wasn't really appropriate at that time. I got SP4SX and a mini log, and I loved, those two instruments. They were very, they opened my eyes to what synthesis and just a different approach at making beats. So that was cool. And then 2019 came, and that's when I dived in, put in payment plan, because yeah, I got a Digitac, I think, and I got the Digitone first. I was figuring that out. It was, I was immature. FM wasn't really, it was just like, it was so new to me. It wasn't like, I didn't find a use case for it back then. I would certainly have a use case for it now, but I didn't have a use case for it back then because I'm so inexperienced with sound design and all that stuff. And when you have all those operators and you're getting used to this electron sequencer, it can be quite a challenge, quite a uphill battle trying to get your feet wet with these instruments. And then I got the Digitac. I'm not even sure. I might have got the OPZ first. And the reason why I got the OPZ, because I was too afraid to get the Octatrack. I wanted to try out something smaller but get used to a sequencer. And the OPZ was pretty cool. Had the OPZ, Digitone, and then Digitac. I was making beats on that. I really started to see the power of the Digitac and the Digitone, of course, and the step sequencer, but still it didn't click fully back then. So there was a point when I actually traded my Digitac for an MPC-1, and you could probably go back in my videos. You'll see lots of shorts with MPC-1. I was just making beats with the MPC-1, going crazy, just like Um, it was cool. I liked the MPC. It was you know it was like a DAW, but massive capabilities. Very cool instrument. But I then missed the Dig Attack because it had its own like vibe. Like, bro, like I don't recall if you can do a control all on a Dig Attack. I mean on the MPC one. That was one thing. Also, there wasn't really like a step sequencer, right? So, I was missing that, and then I was like, dang man, like, but remember all this time I wanted an Octatrack. I just, I was like, that's way too much to start with, but. Then after a while, after I had the MPC one for a while, I made the decision, and I had sold the Digatone by that time. I think I traded the Digatone and my SP404SX for, I think the Moog Slim Fatty, and that was just I like the Moog. I don't know if I'd do that again because you're trading like 4 tracks, 8 voices for monophonic analog voice. I mean, but hey, that's Slim Fatty. It produces a Moog sound, so but yeah, I went to MPC one, but then the pandemic hit, and then crypto. I then saw like the Octatrack. I was like, let me just, let me put this on payment plan. Let me go for the Octatrack because I already had experience with the Digatone and Dig Attack by that time. So a sequencer was like something I was willing to just give a shot at. So I did it, and then, man, the Octatrack really just like was like, yeah, this is it. Like this is like where I wanted to be in terms of making beats because it's no longer like it's not like an MPC one. You're just playing like I feel like people don't really get that. Like with the MPC one, yes, you can absolutely perform a beat. You can finger drum, you can hit play. It depends on your style, right? But like what the Octatrack allows you to do is being able to basically automate in real time. Well, you're not automating. Well, you can automate, but in a way, you are the automator of whatever you set the scenes to, and that's what I liked about the Electron boxes because there was just these features that you just don't get in your standard MPC, your standard SP404SX, these traditional boxes used for hip hop. And I feel like there's a lot of capability, untapped potential using a sequencer such as the Electron, or the Electron boxes, or even more recently the Dirty Wave M8, right? The Dirty Wave Mate, I don't know, Polyen trackers, all these other boxes. I feel like there's so many MPC zealots or zealots or whatever. People who are just like MPC that they don't see like, yo, we can really be pushing the sound. We could be making something cutting edge, but instead everybody just wants to kind of like keep with the same tools, maybe add some saturation, finger drum, and hey, I could be completely off base. Let me know. My bad, but this is just my perspective. I feel like if more hip hop producers were using these Electron boxes or these not just Electron, just any synthesis boxes and stuff like that, and completely understood like money is a thing, right? But like if we had more artists using these boxes, we could be pushing and putting things on the cutting edge, getting into Eurorack. That's probably a goal down the line for me, like 10 years. I'm not in a rush because that's a money pit. But yeah, I just wanted to that's really my story, right? So like me starting off on these boxes, I wasn't new to production. I was like years in, and on top of that, I was taking piano lessons. So I don't want to give like, hey, like, the expectation that, oh, once you have the box, you could just make any beat. It took some experience for me and some pre-knowledge in order to get to this point. And I think anybody can do it. Don't be afraid to jump in, try something new with this. Heck, if you don't have experience, try to learn this. Like this is a great platform. These Electron boxes, they're a great platform to learn music. Even it's a different perspective. Don't feel in the need to have theory knowledge. It's just helpful if you want to do something very specific, right? But you have fun with these boxes, do something different, make different sounds, and really sculpt your own lane. That's what these boxes allow you to do. But yeah, that's really my journey to making beats on Electron boxes. And yeah, one last thing though, if I could make a recommendation, if you are a musician, if you are a guitarist, if you are a keyboardist, if you are a drummer, if you are any of these or any other musician that you actually play an instrument, Dawless, please check out some Dawless boxes, like some Dawless samplers. Some of these tools can really take whatever you're doing on those instruments to the next level, just with the effects, right? Just the effects alone. Don't even think about, I mean, you could get into mangling samples and getting into looper and stuff like that and more performative things, but these really open up a new world. And I definitely recommend, if you are a musician and you're thinking about producing, you might want to go the DAW route, or check out some of these boxes, right? Because these boxes have very specific niche things that they do that you can't necessarily do easily in the DAW. The DAW can absolutely do everything these boxes can do. These boxes can't necessarily do everything a DAW does, but these boxes have such limitations in how they're designed that enables an outcome that's not easily achievable on a DAW. So again, I think everybody would benefit to just give it a shot and try out these cool boxes. Again, Syntac is low-key my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. I like the Dig-Attack too, but the Syntac, you can create your own drum sounds. It's really dope. And yeah, I think drum synthesis is definitely where I'm going toward. I want to make drums, my own sounds, and my own soundscapes. So yeah, this was my quick video on my journey towards Electron, and hope you enjoyed it, and peace.